Greetings, dear students. This video is to explain the usage of round function and rint function of math class in Java. Math.round function rounds off the parameterized value mathematically. That is, as we round off the values in maths the same way it does it. And it doesn't have just one return data type. It can return a value of int type or long type. That is, always a non-fractional value is returned. When the parameter is of float type, that is of 4 bytes, then the returned value is of int type, also of 4 bytes. And when the parameter is of double type, 8 bytes, then the returned value is of long type, also of 8 bytes. So you can say that it tries to maintain the RAM consumption. That is 4 bytes to 4 bytes and 8 bytes to 8 bytes. Let us see how the values are rounded off in various cases. When the parameter is in the range of 0.6 to 0.9, then it is rounded off to the next higher integer, the nearest one. And if the value is in the range of 0.1 to 0.4, then it is rounded off to the nearest value, that is 0. Let us see some examples. Math.round, when works on 0.7, it becomes 1. And on 0.4, it makes it 0. Math.round 18.6 becomes 19 and 18.3 becomes 18. Let us see how it behaves on the negative side. When it works on minus 0.1 to minus 0.4, it makes the value 0, the nearest one. And from minus 0.6 to minus 0.9, it makes it minus 1, the nearest point. Let's see some examples. Minus 0.4 becomes 0. Math.round minus 0.7 becomes minus 1. Math.round minus 18.3 becomes minus 18 and minus 18.6 becomes minus 19. And as I have already mentioned it earlier, that math.round function rounds off the value mathematically. So from 0.5 position, the value will be rounded off to the next integer, that is 1. So 0.5 will become 1. 16.5 will become 17, the next integer, the higher one. And in case of negative value, that is minus 0.5, the value will be rounded off to the next integer, that is 0. That is minus 0.5 will become 0, minus 12.5 will become minus 12. Now let us see some examples of round function when the parameter is of float data type. 3.4 will be rounded off to 3, nearest one on the lower side. 3.7 will be rounded off to 4, the nearest integer, but on the higher side. And as already explained, from the 0.5 position, it goes to the higher side, always. Now minus 8.7 will become minus 9, nearest one on the lower side. Minus 12.2 will become minus 12, that is on the higher side, the nearest value. And again 0.5 will take it to the greater side, that is minus 12. Now let us see some examples of round function with double parameter. 3.4 will become 3, the nearest integer on the lower side. 3.7 will become 4, the nearest integer on the higher side. 2.5 will become 3, that is from 0.5 position, it goes to the greater side, the greater integer. Minus 8.7 will bring it down to minus 9, the nearest integer. Minus 12.2 will take it up to minus 12, the nearest integer, and minus 14.5 will make it minus 14. That is the greater integer. Now let us see how Math.rint works. It also rounds off the parameterized value and it returns a double type value always. That is a fractional value, unlike Math.round. Now, if the value is in the range of 0.6 to 0.9, it will be rounded off to the next real number, that is 1. Now from 0.1 to 0.4, it is rounded off to the previous value, and that is 0. So 0.7 will become 1, 0.4 will go back and become 0.0, 18.6 will be taken up to 19.0, and 18.3 will be rounded down to 18.0. Now let us see what happens on the negative side. If the value is in the range of minus 0.1 to minus 0.4, it will be rounded off to the next number, that is 0. And if it is in the range of minus 0.6 to minus 0.9, it will be rounded down to the previous number, that is minus 1. That means minus 0.7 will become minus 1.0, minus 0.4 will become 0.0, minus 18.6 will go down to minus 19.0, and minus 18.3 will move up to minus 18.0. You might have noticed that so far the rounding off is done similar to Math.round. Now let us see from midpoint how does it behave. It always rounds off to the nearest even real value. That is, if it is 0.5, so it goes to 0, since 1 is odd and 0 is even. If it is minus 0.5, same thing happens, it goes to 0 because minus 1 is odd. $12.5 will become 12.0, 13.5 will become 14.0, minus 12.5 will become minus 12.0, and minus 13.5 will become minus 14.0. So there are basically two differences between Math.round and Math.rint's working. Math.round always returns a non-fractional value, that is either of int type or long type depending on the parameter's data type, float or double. And in case of Math.rint, the returning value is always of double type. Second point is that from the mid position, how the two functions behave. How do they round off the values? So Math.round takes the value to the greater integer, that is on a number line always towards right. And in case of Math.rint, the rounding off is done to the nearest even real value, that is the fractional value. Please note that if the values are already rounded off, that is 12.0 or minus 5.0 or 123.0 or 17 or 22 or 0, then these will not be further rounded off. For example, so I hope that this video proves to be fruitful in understanding the two functions, their working and their differences.